Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. What a show, folks. Breaking news, left, right, and center. We have Jez Corden of Windows Central, one half of the Xbox 2 podcast with our good buddy and friend, Roundout Thor 19, the man with a million, dropping knowledge and news bombs as they normally do. Well, folks, we're going to be talking about State of Decay 3 thanks to a new article that was posted by, and hold on, it's a new website, folks. I've never heard of it. PK Insight. Shout out to King Webb, who dropped this into the DM, who consistently drops things into the DM. And this is a new site. I pulled about 4 or 5 articles. I will drop the link for it in the show notes so you can check it out. Very well written. It was a great read. But that's not the only thing that we're talking about, folks. We have some other news to really kind of sink our teeth in. And this one, folks, is going to be a 2-tiered topic. Now, the first half is going to be about the Xbox partnered handheld that will be releasing later this year. That story also comes the way of Windows Central, a la Jez Corden, but we also are going to kind of split that in half and talk about 2027 when, of course, it is basically confirmed based on what Jez Corden had to say that the next generation hardware, this magic box that is going to be the, PC underneath your TV that looks and acts like an Xbox, well, that apparently is coming out in 2027, not 2026. We'll break all of that down momentarily. But Jamie Moran, how you feeling, brother? Welcome back.
I'm feeling good, a little bit better than last week, and I'm excited to talk about some gaming because it's been a good week. And the next few years ahead look really interesting, especially for new releases. Obviously, we're going to be talking about hardware and stuff, but we're all about the games, and so many cool looking games coming.
Indeed. We're eating good in the neighborhood, so to speak. But our good brother, who is up and ready to rock and roll, Infinite Umbra, how are you feeling? I see that you've been getting down with Holly playing one of the hottest games this year, or hottest co-op games, and that's Jason Fair's Split Fiction, which looks freaking phenomenal. I bought it. I have not been able to play it. Obviously, it's co-op. I got to team up with somebody. But man, how you feeling? Welcome back.
Hey, Boom. Good morning to you both. I am really tired, but I will say, because I am excited to talk with you guys, but I am really, really tired. Just as a forewarning. So if you call on a brother and you don't hear anything, you know what happened.
Well, I mean, listen, it has happened before, but you know what? You do rise to the occasion when need be, sir.
And that's what I tell the ladies, Boom.
Oh, hold on a sec there.
I'm still somewhat quick with it. But yeah, man, that Split Fiction is actually really, really dope.
Looks phenomenal. Looks just phenomenal. Some of the things I saw that on people's playthrough, wow, man, that game just looks another banger. So to speak.
It is pure fun, and they do. Joseph Ayers and the team from Hayes, they just do a great job of capturing joy. They have so many different games, genre styles in it that you can play through in it, on one stage alone. It's just really fun, and anyone who hasn't played it yet, you're missing out. The good thing is that one person owning it essentially allows for another person to play it. So as a community, why don't you all talk with each other and hey, why don't you let a brother get in and then free real quick and play a little, Split Fiction? I got you the next one. Do something like that because it's worth it and it's fun. But I'm going to play it probably with a few other people too. So I'm definitely going to finish it up with Holly and then that blue number for those that don't know, and then try helping a few others get through it or get those achievements out of the way. So yeah.
Nice, good stuff. Well, we have a great show to get into. I want to welcome in already 207 people here watching live. We certainly appreciate it. Obviously, you heard the new track. That is going to be the new track for the opening on every show. Copyright paid for, a la Mr. BoomStick XL. Again, this is a call out to all content creators. There is a particular, now granted, it's pricey, you got to pay, but there is a free one. It's called artlist.io. And basically what it is like thousands upon thousands of music, songs, everything, footage, sound effects, voiceovers. It's $200 a year for commercial license use, which what YouTube is for, right? It's considered commercial use. And obviously, I ran the tracks on every opening that we have, including some of the new ones, and it's working fantastic. So if you're interested and you don't know where to go, if you're a content creator, hit me up, DM me. I'll send you over the information. It's phenomenal. Again, it's $200 a year. It's worth every penny, in my opinion, based on having to fight with YouTube on and other really cheesy creators with their songs. Even though you own the rights, you pay for it, they still want to try and nickel and dime you. I'm not about that life. But, gentlemen, we got to get into one of the opening salvos for today's show. And that comes the way of pkinsight.com regarding State of Decay 3. Now, they are reporting on things that were discussed during the Xbox 2 podcast. I am going to link both the web page as well as that podcast with Jez and Rand in the show notes when the show is done. So if you want to check it out for yourself, you can. But according to again, I'm reading verbatim from the article. State of Decay 3 is a serious banger and is set to release first half of 2026. Insider reveals. And of course, that insider is Jez Corden. Now, the article goes on to say, gentlemen, after an announcement of Dead Lab State of Decay 3 in the Xbox Showcase of 2024, fans are most concerned about the title's release date. While rumors already suggest that it will be delayed until 2026, an insider revival provides more specific timeline for the game's arrival. Now, here's the thing, folks. There is a story that is floating around that Microsoft, or specifically Xbox, did and thought about releasing State of Decay 3 this year. That plan officially has been scrapped. The game has been moved into first half. Some people are saying first quarter of 2026. And if we're just looking at the roadmap, and I'm going to bring this back around to State of Decay in a second, 2025 is a banger year already. Wait to second half, it's going to get even better. But 2026 is shaping up for not only the 25th anniversary of Xbox's platform itself, the 25th anniversary of Master Chief, the 20th anniversary of Gears of War. Next year is going to be a party from start to finish. State of Decay 3 is one of those games. Halo, the Combat Evolved Unreal Engine 5 version, or the remake, is another. You also have Gears of War E-Day, which we know is not happening this year, coming out in 2026. And that is with the potential of Forza Horizon 6. The three pillars of Xbox all coming out next year during the 25th anniversary. It seems like a storybook, ladies and gentlemen. But let's jump back on the road to State of Decay. Now, I'm going to read verbatim again from the article. This is what Jez Corden had to say during the Xbox 2 podcast. He says, I've heard State of Decay 3 could be launching in the first half of next year. Now, okay, he says the first half. I heard the first quarter. We'll see what happens, but it's definitely coming out next year. And the game is a banger, according to Jez Corden, because he literally said it during the podcast and in this interview, in this webpage. I'm going to go first to Jamie Moran. Jamie, I'm trying to read and do the podcast at the same time. Don't do that, folks. But let's talk State of Decay 3, because you literally just tweeted about it. This is the game that you're excited for. And if we know anything about Undead Labs, if we know anything about State of Decay 2 and the original was an arcade release, right? It was a small team. They took a chance on something that they were passionate about. It was a pretty good release. Then State of Decay 2 comes out, and listen, again, small team, very limited budget. They eventually get purchased by Xbox, and now the fruits of the labor of all of these years of updates for State of Decay 2, it seems based on what we saw last year, Jamie, they have honed their skills. The game looked amazing. The trailer did, in fact, have what I thought was gameplay in there as well. And now we have a potential 2026 release, at least in the first half of what is expected to be, again, folks, a big year again for Xbox. Jez Corden calling it a banger. I mean, I don't know what he's heard, what he has seen, but Jez doesn't make statements like that quite easily. I want to get your thoughts on that specifically.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying before the show went live, the first State of Decay was a very small budget game. I think it was one of the first like major Xbox Live Arcade games that hit over a million copies sold in like a week or something. It did insanely well. But as we know, that game had the budget of like a £10 note and a packet of cigarettes, right? But with the sequel, they clearly had more of a budget, and but with me, by the way, for a little bit of a history for me today, I've always had this weird relationship with State of Decay where it's one of these franchises I absolutely want to get into, but the third-person shooting mechanics just they haven't been there for me. And micromanagement, like let me tell you, how you were talking about trying to read and do a podcast at the same time, it turns your brain into scrambled egg. That's how I feel when I play State of Decay, because I don't like managing parties and items and stuff. But I mean, from things I've kind of seen, and the gist I get from the new game is that they might tone back on that stuff even as an option. So like for me, I'm excited because the coalition have stepped in. They help them with the third person shooting mechanics, and as we know, they kind of know what they're talking about when it comes to third person shooting. So like for me, I'm sold on it. I can't wait to play it. But like even the clip we've seen with the gameplay, it looks really good. The first two games, yeah, they had their level of jank to it because they didn't have the funding and all that stuff. But if you look at all the other studios where Xbox has stepped in, they bought the studio, and then they've put out a game afterwards. Like the quality of the game has significantly went up. Psychonauts 2 wouldn't have had boss battles if it wasn't for Microsoft. And look how that game turned out. It's an absolute masterpiece. Avowed, for some reason, people love hating on that game, but it's probably the most polished Obsidian product of all time. I've had no issues with it. So, like, Microsoft letting State of Decay do what they want with actual funding this time, it's exciting. And, when Jez Corden calls this a quote-unquote banger, like, I think it's going to be a good game. I think people have been waiting for a new open world zombie experience that feels like good to play, because like I play a lot of zombie games. A lot of them tend to have this level of jank to them, and I don't know why. Maybe it's something about the undead, but everything we've seen about State of Decay so far and everything we're hearing about it looks good, sounds good. And if this is coming out early next year, and well, 2026 in general already looks stacked. Even though we don't have an official lineup, Fable and State of Decay 3, yeah, 2026 is off to a great start. And, we're going to be finding out a lot more in the next few months. But, I mean, everything so far, it looks good. And the fact that, they've been reserved on what they've shown, because they showed the CGI trailer, I think, 4 years ago. And then we got the gameplay trailer last year, and they kind of been quiet since. They're teasing and stuff, and I think that's good for them because they need to concentrate on the game. They're a very small studio, but they have a lot of people helping them, especially from the coalition. So like all hands on deck. I think they've got a great product here.
Yeah, it looks phenomenal. I mean, again, folks, we did see the CG trailer with the protagonist that was in the woods with the zombie deer. Obviously, now we know that the zombies are going to be part of the animals as well, which is crazy, right? Like already you have to deal with the dead, and now you got to worry about the freaking animals as well. are you going to get turned? You can turn into a zombie if a squirrel bites you or something. I don't know, but it's definitely something to be concerned about. Infinite Umbra, are you there, kind sir?
I am still here. I am with the living.
Okay, well, you are part of the living, and we want you to keep on living. Listen, again, the story that we were using for context is from PK Insight. It was written by Ektar Rasul, posted March 9th, 2025. And again, I just want to read the specific quote regarding what Jez Corden had to say about it being a banger. The story goes, what is more interesting is that the insider increased our anticipation for the title. According to Jez Corden, that State of Decay 3 is a banger, which means that it will be an unforgettable experience and highly engaging content. Look, they had me at banger. All right. This is something that is becoming a term that was used for PlayStation's games. And listen, let's call a spade a spade. When we used that terminology, and a lot of people don't like it, it's fine. I hear you if you don't. But those games that were going one-to-one with that word were bangers. Right? Spider-Man 2018, banger. Sorry. God of War 2018, Horizon, the first one. These games deserve the titles. But we're starting to see that a lot of the Xbox games are starting to now get attached with this. This is one of them. And like I said earlier, Jez Corden doesn't use terminology like that unless he's really, really excited about a game. And apparently he's excited about State of Decay 3. Let's get your thoughts on the fact that it is potentially coming first half of 2026, an already stacked year. But this game has been in development for many, many years. And look, I've said this before. I understand that the virtual tomatoes are going to come out. It's great. No problem. I very much enjoyed State of Decay 2. I have nearly 60 hours. I played solo. I did. I don't have the time in the day to set up, hanging out with the community. I wish I did, folks. I just don't. So I played almost 60 hours, and I very much enjoyed myself. I cleared the first 2 areas, got to the third area, and put it down. What I'm hoping for this, because they've had so much time with it, and this is where the virtual tomatoes might come out, I am hoping for a single-player campaign that also offers the State of Decay that everyone knows and loves. If you like this open-world, survival-esque, zombie-filled world, it's there for you. Build your town, build your crew, go out and try and clear as much areas as you can. That's the retaining loop with State of Decay, and that's awesome. But I am hoping for a story that's somehow interwoven into the open world survival aspect of it. I'm not saying it needs to be like Resident Evil 2. I'm saying that it would be pretty cool to have a named protagonist be a part of that world, a story that's a part of that world, and then when you're done with that story, Umbra, then move on to multiplayer where you create a character from scratch and you go out into this world. What are your thoughts on what Jez Corden had to say? And more importantly, do you think it needs a single player campaign?
Yeah, with what Jez has spoke on. I mean, I would be very surprised if it landed early 2026. But I mean, who knows? I mean, they've been quiet for a long time. We did see, of course, the CGI. Well, some of it was gameplay of State of Decay 3. So I don't know how far along they might be. So who's to say? And Jez is fairly reliable when it comes to stuff like this. So he's not going to say something like this if he hasn't seen some things or was told some reliable things from somebody he trusts. So it's possible. But that doesn't mean that it's guaranteed, right? Because everything changes, things can slip, et cetera, so delays, etc. So I don't know for sure if that's the case. I almost always feel like games like this, or games that are based on horror, or death, as far as supernatural type things and stuff like that, should always be around Halloween. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but I feel like it's here. State of Decay in April just doesn't ring the same to me as if it was October. I don't know, but yeah, no, I mean, hey, hopefully that it is the case. I feel like, again, I am so content with what Xbox is doing, Microsoft is doing with their games, as far as their release schedule and everything like that. I don't doubt them. We know the games are coming. I feel like so relaxed nowadays because I think they've landed at a really good spot, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I trust that they're going to deliver when it comes to those games, and they've had a steady stream now of 80 plus whatever games, and I think that's going to continue, if not go higher. So I am excited for it to drop, largely because I've never actually really played them. I played part 1 way back, just a bit, and part 2 I've never played. I never found any group that I wanted to jump into it with and all of that. And that will lead to your second question. And that I would agree with you 100%. Having it where it's an actual story. See, for me, because stories go far, it take me far in a game. If it's actually story and narrative based, and it's not just, oh, I'm just running around and surviving, that to me doesn't appeal to me as much as having an actual story that has a beginning, a denouement, as they would say, a denouement. You see these nice French words.
I love it. So early in the morning, and you said you were asleep. I don't understand what you're talking about, sir.
My brain is fighting with itself. I feel like the lack of sleep, oxygen, and everything is just making me say things. Yeah, if I start speaking French fully, you'll know what's up. But yeah, I like games that have all of that as well. So I'm with you there. If I feel like giving it a central protagonist or protagonists, and allowing that to have a real story, I think would actually take it to the next level. Because I think they're kind of in this niche, and that's probably, in my opinion, why it's not as popular as it could be. It's because it doesn't have that extra something, right? That is not, and I hate to compare it, but it's the closest thing that I can think of it, which is a Last of Us. I would love for them to have something of, a budget push behind them, not to necessarily do what they do there, but that will give them more leeway to actually give us a real solid story in this universe, that outside of just, oh, well, people are zombies and you have to work together and build civilizations or whatever, or camps or whatever. I would like more than that, more meat on the bone, as they would say, and I think that would actually push me to get into this game more. As it stands, though, I will say, they already have me hook, line, and sinker using Unreal Engine. So
that is not a surprising statement, sir.
Meat on the bone is not a pause. Creative must.
I mean, I thought zombie, but the chat is the chat. So thank you for the pause, because that could have been taken a different way.
He'll say pause. They ain't a pause.
Oh my goodness! You know what's interesting, guys? And I'll come back to you in a second. I want to then bring this back to Jamie, because it was, I want to throw this single player aspect at him, get his hot take. If there is one publisher that knows how to release a game that has both sides of the coin, and not only take advantage of the knowledge, but do it to great success, it's Xbox. Now, granted, I'm not taking us all the way back to yesteryear when they used to do it with Gears and Halo, but Gears is going to have a single player and a multiplayer. The new Halo is going to have a single player and a multiplayer. Forza, the Horizon 6, is going to have a multiplayer and a single player aspect world that you're living in. This is an opportunity, and I think you're onto something, Infinite Number, about getting people hooked. Now, again, I don't know how big of a gas game this is going to become, but obviously it's a trending thing, right? It's going into Game Pass day and date. Great. If there is a single player, story-driven, narrative-focused story that introduces the player into this world that is no longer a living world, it's a zombie-filled world where everyone is fighting for survival. and they have this overarching story that has you crossing the path of, potentially other players, or having just a story that's narrative focused, that teaches you the mechanics, has a protagonist, has a start, a middle, an end, and then when you're done with that story, you as the player might be so inclined or so smitten, if you will, with the world, with the character that you just finished using to beat the game, or just the idea of, wow, I played the single player, now I want to see what this is like in multiplayer. I want to see what the survival aspect of this is. I think it could work. I think it could work really well. I think it would get people to go from that single player game and move into potentially playing multiplayer, because that's usually how it works. Infinite Umbra. Oh,
I thought you were going to.
No, we're going to go back to him, but I just want you to kind of finish your point.
Yeah. Well, so again, my thing is, because I had tuned out a little bit because I'm reading the chat. My bad. Set that up for me again, Boom. That wasn't a matter of me.
I mean, really what it is you made a great point about playing a single player aspect or a portion of this game. You said that it would have a start, a middle, and a finish, right? You finish the game, most people, not everyone, will be inclined or more inclined to then go and try the multiplayer, which could ultimately be the gas game aspect of this that has people coming back and buying outfits and buying weapon skins and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, all of that's cool too, right? And it can definitely, it definitely allows it for microtransactions too. I'm sure that's a way to boost sales for the series and things like that. I mean, I've said it many times. I'm an aesthetic thought. So you put some good quality stuff inside of a game, you probably gonna get a feel. Yeah. You put put a fake little Master Chief, a little armor inside of something. There's a good chance a brother might have to log in. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm with that 100%. Yeah, I mean, and speaking of the whole, as an aside, is the old aesthetic thing. Today is the 11th, Boom. I think we're supposed to get our helmets today.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I already have to do an unboxing, so I may have to do two. I'm going to set that up because I am going to unbox that for sure. That looks dope. I can't. That's right. I forgot that it was actually releasing this, so I have to check my my notifications to see where that bad boy is. But Jamie, I do want to just bring this back around to you and ask you about the single player / multiplayer, because obviously this game is and was launched as a open world survival game. Now, there are a lot of people that want it to retain what it was, and I'm not saying it shouldn't. What I'm saying is that there is an aspect of this game, or at least an opportunity by the developers, to deliver a single player, story driven, narrative focused game that obviously teaches the player about the survival. But I think there's people that want to have an actual story that they could follow while playing the multiplayer. Any thoughts to that?
I would love a single player story for this. I really would. As I was saying before, I found the previous two difficult to get into just because, the shooting mechanics and, like the dynamic storyline stuff, which happens in 2, like, I don't know, Rachel that works in the office upstairs needs a spoon for a yogurt. Can you go into this zombie infested hive to get a spoon? Right? Just stuff like that. And like, that's the kind of stuff I came up with. And it's like that stuff's cool and all, but for me, I would love a story, have that world, have it where you have to actually, I want basically the ideal thing for me. I want the perfect Walking Dead experience, right? And State of Decay could do that. I think, them having a storyline. I think them having a storyline it would be easy to advertise. Maybe have a set character for a storyline, like you're saying. I honestly prefer that. And when it comes to the whole live service thing, it's like if you look at a lot of games Microsoft puts out, most of them aren't even live service games. This game's going to be supported for a while. Obviously, they probably have some skin packs and stuff, but I'm guessing they'll support it with expansions for a very long time. But like a single player story mode, I think would go a long way, because like that'll get nerds like me and the rest of us playing this game day one, jumping into the story, and also would get people ready for the shared world wild experience. It's what I want. I think I honestly think a story mode would be the best thing for the franchise.
I mean, great points all around, gentlemen, so far. This is, folks, where we're going to get into the second half or second topic that is going to be split into two, because it's a rather big topic that we have to get into. Umbra, I'm going to go in reverse order and go right back to you first. Now, this is, again, I have the story in front of me. It was from WindowsCentral.com, and it was, of course, written by Jez Corden. I said that in the opening. The title of the story goes as such, ladies and gentlemen: exclusive. Xbox's new hardware plans begin with a gaming handheld set for later this year, with a full next generation of consoles with an S, targeting 2027. Now, obviously, this is an exclusive. It's Jez Corden. It's Windows Central. He obviously has a tremendous amount of connections within Microsoft, and I would imagine this is exactly where he's getting the information. But I kind of want to talk, before we get into the next generation of hardware and the plans that apparently are now pretty much locked for 2027 and not 2026 like we all thought. I want to get into the OEM handheld. And I have a couple of points of contention here that I want to kind of bring up that make a lot of sense. So again, as I read from the story, please be patient, folks. Umbra, I'm going to go right to you. The handheld, or one of the handhelds, is expected to be shown potentially at GDC this year. And it makes sense, because if you line this story up with what happened about 2 weeks ago, where they told us they were going to GDC and that they were going to be talking about and pushing the envelope regarding the ideology of this is an Xbox, it makes perfect sense, right? GDC is going to be a big spot to show off potentially something like a partnered handheld. Well, I'm going to read verbatim from the story, folks. And it says this: first up, Microsoft is working with a PC gaming OEM. Think Asus, Lenovo, MSI, Razer, etc., on an Xbox-branded gaming handheld, surprisingly slated for later this year in 2025 if plans are met. The code name is Keenan. This gaming handheld will look unmistakably Xbox, we're told, complete with an official Xbox guide button and Xbox design sensibilities. Given that this is a partnered device, similar to Lenovo's Steam OS partnered with Valve, I expect this handheld to be more PC-oriented. Keenan is almost definitely running full Windows, putting the Microsoft Store and PC Game Pass front and center, alongside the ability to install things like Steam. Now, this is what I've been waiting for. Obviously, I'm still going to buy the official Xbox handheld that is expected now in 2027 rather than next year, with, of course, the new mythical box underneath the TV that's going to run Steam potentially, as well as good old games and even your Epic library. Let's get your thoughts on this, because a lot of the gaming community already have handhelds. So again, like a community member like John Wolf has like 5. And there are more people. I mean, I have a ROG Ally. I don't get much use out of it because it's very PC-esque, but a branded Xbox team up with potentially Lenovo or even Asus, because they've partnered with them before, I would imagine that this is going to be made for Xbox gamers looking to simply just press a button, start it, press your guide button, go to Xbox, link your account, and go. Rather than, do all the bells and whistles that you have to do with a Lenovo Legion or a Legion Go or whatever. What are your thoughts on the? I mean, again, this is a bit of a shock. I did not expect that this would happen this year, and we could see it again. This is hypothetical stuff now. As soon as GDC, which happens in a couple of weeks, Umbra.
Yeah, for me, Boom. Now you remember, if you guys remember, I said 2027 for the next year.
You did,
and there's a reason for that.
Well, there you go. I like the evil laugh.
Yeah. No, I just used good judgment, I think, but it coincided with some things. So I'll say this. For the handheld, I am excited for because I want to see what they do. But if I had to speak on partnerships and things like that, the best partnership I can think of will probably be ASUS. Shout out to my Rock Ally brothers in the chat and wherever you are. I see you, Black John. So I would think it would be ASUS. This is the thing about it, though. I'm not sure how they're going to utilize them. Right? I don't know if it's going to be like, oh, we're going to have like some of the new technology, or they'll allow for you to, play next gen or have next gen-esque abilities on it. I don't know how that's going to work out. So I don't know if it's just going to be like some type of licensing thing. And you know what I mean? Like, how like Razer Kishi, for instance, had like the Xbox branded Razer Kishis and stuff. So I don't know how that's going to play out. That's the thing for me. I'm excited to see what they do. And if they're going to be speaking on it on at the GDC, then obviously it's going to be tying into what they're moving toward with the future Xbox, the upcoming Xbox, should I say. So I don't know. I don't know how to quantify this just yet. We just don't have enough information. But if I had to guess, it will be some type of partnership where they brand the device itself, because I can't think of any other specific partnerships that work that way for them that I can think of. And again, if they're having a 2027 release for next gen, this certainly wouldn't be, next gen's handheld here. They're not going to.
No, it's basically going to be a partner thing. And this. Look, I want to read something that really, it's context for what you're saying, and then of course we'll get Jamie's hot take on this. Now, there's a particular part in this story that I want this to be clear. According to Jez Corden, who wrote the story, this device will unmistakably look like an Xbox. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, according to the story, it is going to have at least the official Xbox guide button on your controller. What else makes it look like that? Well, again, this is complete spitballing here, folks. This is just a thought and a theory. There's been some mock-ups of something that, I'm going to make a video out of this, so you'll see what I'm talking about. It basically is a Elite controller split down the middle with a screen in the middle. That's what it looks like. That's the picture that I found. I mean, there's been a ton of mock-ups. That could be what it looks like. Now, again, it says it's unmistakably an Xbox. That's if it looks like that, then you can't mistake this at being an Xbox. This is going to be an Elite controller with a screen in the middle. But this is This is an even more interesting take. Jez Corden in the story says this device, Umbra, will likely serve, at least in part, as a research experience for Microsoft as they build their handheld. That's very interesting. Again, kind of, still dipping the toe in, and without a rush to get it done, which makes obviously a lot of sense that it's not next year, because again, we're only in the first quarter of 2025, and I would imagine they're going to release hardware around the holidays, so they do have some time. But the fact that they have not settled in on an official, prototype or device that they're happy with, this again could set up as a test bed for what their handheld would look like and how it would actually function. Thoughts, Umbra?
Yeah, for me, Boom, again, it goes back to as far as the handheld you're speaking, right? That's the thing. I don't quite know how it's going to function, man. I really don't. I don't get how they're going to utilize this thing. Um, because in my mind, again, I don't think it's a next gen compatible device. I think it's going to be for current gen. Um, and again, I think that's because the next gen Microsoft. Well, to be fair, it could be both. Because we're
Well, if
hearing
it's PC based, it's just a matter
exactly.
of
Exactly.
parts.
So it could be both. It won't necessarily mean it won't be able to do whatever they need to going forward, right? Because like you said, it's PC based, and what their Microsoft is planning on doing next gen is going to be PC-esque, right? For the
Yep.
Xbox. So
Hmm.
I guess to be fair, we have to see that. I am interested though if they can say, hey, we're going to use this as a test bed to allow for that future that's coming and show you how yes this too is an Xbox essentially, right? And allow for that for us to pull essentially our Xbox there through the cloud and play everything, even our own games. Now that's when it will actually matter. If I can go and get on there and log into essentially to Xbox on the handheld
Right.
and pull in games that are not on Game Pass and in the cloud and such and just play them, essentially that does become an Xbox, right? And that's what the plan was anyway with the whole this is an Xbox thing, is to be able to play all your games everywhere. And so this whole project Latitude that they were doing here, as long as that plays all off and you can access your games rather on this device, essentially making it an Xbox, if you will, then yeah, I think that's a W. That's the only thing I can think that they might be doing outside of showing some whatever partnership, which I would guess will be branding, where they use the Xbox logo on something or something like that. Again, going back to the Razer key sheet for my basis of thought, um, because I think essentially Microsoft is not going to put any money in R&D for a handheld themselves if they're going to use them. This I would say this gives me pause on Microsoft actually having a handheld for their console, if you will, versus allowing third party developers to have it. That is worrisome to me a little bit, because now it makes me think, is Microsoft going to have their own?
Well, their handheld has basically been confirmed that all the way up to the top. So they are making a handheld now. Thanaros in the chat asked, "Why would Xbox make their own handheld if they have partners to do so?" Well, I think that's a great question. I think it comes down to money. You got to remember, if you buy something on this handheld, it's a partnered handheld. They have to share the profits. Now, does that go into games that are being downloaded on that device? I honestly don't know the business aspect of it, but they are doing two pieces of hardware for 2027. One is their own handheld. Now, could that change if these take off? I honestly don't know. I don't think so. I think Xbox is still going to want their own hardware. Now, here's the thing. Is this next generation handheld that we're talking about coming in 2027, is it going to be Switch-esque, meaning it's going to dock to your TV? Well, that's I don't know. Could that be the design feature of it, actually playing like an Xbox in your hand and docking it to your TV, and it's essentially an S version of the next gen Xbox versus the X version is in this mythical PC box, Umbra? I honestly don't know, but they do, and they have said that there have two pieces of hardware coming next generation. And again, I do have a quote for regarding where this thing. It went all the way up to Satya Nadella, and it has been approved. They have the money, and they are currently developing it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that's the case. I just look at them doing a whole outreach to third party devices as a little off-putting, because it makes me think, then are they really going to go through with it, or just use them to do that and not waste their money on R&D or whatever, right? But hopefully that is the case. You never know. But I would say too, I guess this also could play into their hands as far as their plans go to introduce all these different OEMs where you can play your Xbox on whatever. Because remember, when we talked about this before, one of the things I mentioned was the Xbox essentially is going to allow third-party developers, PC makers, etc., to have their own branded version of it that allows for whatever version PC, because we're talking about PC at this point, so that can allow for different builds and stuff like that, right? And this is
your imagination, as long as your bank account is going to be as far as
pretty much
it takes you. So if you want a $2,000 Xbox, a Lenovo or an Alienware might be able to provide that to you, but it's going to be ultimately an Xbox, except it's going to be it potentially could have a 5090 in it because you paid to have that box made.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I mean, and going to that point, I can get my 5090 enabled Xbox, if you will, and burn a hole in fabric in time with the power that it's going to take to power it up, and then actually land into Xbox, the universe somewhere. But no, yeah, that's the thing. I think that's the future they're going for. So in that logic, looking at it that way, I can see the handheld making sense, because they're just saying, hey, we're going to give you all these other people options to be able to play essentially all your Xbox games anywhere, including these devices too. So I guess that plays into it in that way.
No, I mean, great points all around. Jamie and Moran, let's bring in and talk about the Xbox handheld before we get to next gen, and I will catch up on Super Chats on the back end of this topic. Look, handheld gaming is a big thing. It's a lot of money. It's, it started with the Nintendo Switch. You know what? Hold on a sec. Let's go all the way back. It started with the Game Boy 150 years ago, which, of course, it has evolved to the Switch, which, of course, the Switch 2 is releasing this year at some point. But, hardcore gaming, you're gaming on the go. These PCs in your hand, they're expensive. $500, $600, $700, $800, right? Obviously, one of the first ones in the market was the Steam handheld. And of course, it's had a couple of iterations. And now we see that everybody's in it. Even Sony is supposedly developing their next handheld. That's not what they currently have, which is basically a streaming device. And it's fine for what it does, but people want to be able to download their games and be really on the go. Well, you're going to be able to do that apparently with this next handheld. I want to get your thoughts on what Infinite Umber had to say regarding it. Do you have any concerns that they wouldn't have their own if the partnered ones take off? Because I think there's room for the partner hardware as well as them actually making the money one-to-one on their own piece of hardware. What are your thoughts, Jamie?
Right, so bear in mind what I'm about to say. You're probably going to hear a bunch of different people mention this all of a sudden. So I don't actually think this has anything to do with Xbox as a console. So basically, Steam OS has taken off. There's going to be more Steam boxes out this year and next year. And, Steam is allowing Valve is allowing Steam OS on third-party devices. And, PC handhelds, they're popping off. And, one of the reasons why Microsoft got into the console business is because back in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, there was a worry at Microsoft that Sony was going to take over the living room, right? Because it had a DVD player and all that stuff, maybe internet connectivity. So they came out with the Xbox. This is how I see Microsoft tackling Steam OS. I don't think it has anything to do with Xbox as a console. I think this is Microsoft trying to get Xbox branded in such a way where it could be recognized as a PC device as well, because SteamOS is going out there. If you're a gamer and you gravitate towards PC, maybe you like emulation, mods, all that stuff. Well, what's to stop you from just getting a device such as a SteamOS device, Steambox, Steam Deck, whatever, and just play games on that? Microsoft doesn't want that. They want you to have a Windows device. So I think this has nothing to do with Xbox at all, other than the fact that they want Xbox to be branded as a PC gaming device as well. Now, do I think Xbox next-gen consoles are coming? Obviously. But do I think there's an Xbox handheld that will play Xbox native games coming? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's, the 2027 thing. I think this year is Microsoft. so in the UK, YouTube specifically, PC Game Pass is advertised all the time. Not Game Pass Ultimate, not regular Game Pass, PC Game Pass specifically. I think Microsoft this year, because they have no new Xbox coming out, they want Xbox because Xbox is the gaming brand, right? So I think Microsoft is trying to pivot 2025 as them getting out there and saying, hey, look, you have Xbox consoles here. You have Xbox streaming on your Samsung TV, but Xbox is also a PC. And I think they want to take this year and use the OEM strategy to get their handhelds out there, because this handheld this year isn't going to be playing Xbox games natively. So like this is just my theory, of course. I think this is their foray into pushing Xbox as a PC device as well. So that's my thought. But I 100% think, the console and the official Xbox handheld will happen. I mean, hell, they have a Series S that can play thousands of games. They essentially have that device ready to go with games optimized for it. So like that's my thought on it. And when it comes to the whole OEM strategy, I 1 billion% think that they won't do that for the proper console. That there's too many people jump into consoles for a more simple way to play games. I think doing the OEM thing, you can look back at the 3DO back in the day, the Steam box back when they tried it 15 years ago, failure after failure. I think the OEM thing is specifically for Xbox branded PC handhelds. We'll get our consoles in 2027, which we'll talk about in a bit. But for now, I think 2025 is the pivoting to trying to get Xbox branded as a PC device as well.
I mean, listen, it's going to be very interesting to see where the hardware goes. Look, the one thing I can say is the next couple of years, Xbox and its hardware plans are going to be front and center. Now, Sony's doing some things to change some of the software with the PlayStation 5 Pro. We saw that reported yesterday. I think what that ultimately does is that the PSSR technology isn't working as well as they wanted, which is why they're making the change. I think that ultimately pushes their PlayStation 6 plans to be the rumor 2028. But next year, obviously, and I don't expect we see anything this year at the show unless, of course, the course was corrected and hardware is next year. But it's not. It's 2027. So I don't think we get anything hardware related this year. We're going to get games, and more games at the June event. I would imagine that the following June's event, if there's still a world at this point, because you never know, right? We'll get hardware reveals both for the handheld, the Xbox branded handheld, as well as this mythical, PC Xbox box underneath your TV. Listen, before we get into 2027 and what the story had to continue about these plans, I do want to catch up on super chats. The first one of the day comes from our birthday boy. That's right, Sith Lord. Happy birthday to you, kind sir, folks. He turned 40 years young today, hit level 40. Congratulations, brother. Happy birthday. He drops a very generous $2 super chat. And he said, this is for you, Umbra. He says, when Umbra gets bit by a squirrel, he falls asleep. Oh, my goodness. Hopefully he's not falling asleep yet. House Flan, who's been a channel member for 19 months. Thank you so much for the support, brother. He also drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says, I have been holding off on a handheld because I want my non-Game Pass C-Box library to be accessible. And I don't think you're wrong for that. Hopefully, they continue to add games that are not in Xbox Game Pass that you have purchased, that you can download to these handhelds and play wherever, whenever you want. Now, I would imagine what's holding that up is licensing stuff, because when the lawyers gets involved, it's terrible. But hopefully they will have that rectified, because obviously if you buy a game that's not an Xbox Game Pass, it's really not Xbox everywhere or anywhere unless you can play that game, well, anywhere. So we'll see what happens with that. We have Do You, K Now, the Broke Boy Insider. Will, I'll send you over the link after the show, and we'll get you up to speed with the inner workings of StreamYards. He has gifted 1 Double Barrel Gaming membership. Brother, that's very kind of you. Thank you so much for the generosity. And he will be a guest with me and C Money on Thursday's show. So we look forward to hearing what he has to say. I'm literally writing that show as we speak. We have Game Seeker drops a very generous $2 super chat. And he says, partners are or one partner for the handheld this year. I mean, they use partners. The way it's written, there's no one specific partner. They're suggesting it could be Lenovo or Asus. It could be, it could be any of them. What it's not going to be is the Steam one because they've already partnered. So I don't think it's going to be Steam, but it could be. I would imagine. I mean, they've partnered with Asus before. So, partnering with ROG wouldn't surprise me, but that's not confirmed. Again, they simply, name drop a couple of names because he obviously doesn't have it locked down, or if he does, if he knows, he can't say. We have Wolf of Darkness drops a very generous $10 super chat. Wolf, thank you so much for being here, brother, and thank you so much for the generosity. He says, hey, Boom, if Xbox releases a handheld, expect top specs, RDNA architecture, Zen 4/5 processors, a high refresh an OLED screen, and a seamless Game Pass integration, all for under $500. I mean, that sounds legendary, brother. If you can get all of that in a handheld for $500, I think you've won. But I'm kind of in the camp, gentlemen, where I don't think that these console makers, including Xbox, are going to continue to take losses on these consoles. It's too much investment, and I think if they spend upwards of $600 or $700 to make a particular handheld, I think that cost is going to be sent, to the consumer. They're no longer going to be like, hey, we'll sell for $400 and take a loss. I don't think so, but we will definitely see.
No, that's my thinking too, Boom. I just don't think they're going to be subsidizing all that.
I don't
anymore.
think so. It's too costly. Again, this is 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. It was still costly, but it's not like it's now. They're spending millions on investment for for research and development. I don't know if they're gonna want to continue to take that on the chin, so to speak. But Umbra, I'm going right back to you because I want to talk 2027. Now, you have been banging the drum for quite a bit about you thinking that the next generation of Xbox hardware was not next year. This is what we've all been pondering and thinking and hoping, but apparently, thanks to the story, it is 2027. So I want to read verbatim. This one particular paragraph does add a significant amount of context to what we're about to cover. It says this, because, our sources also indicate that Microsoft's internal successor to the Xbox Series X and S platform has been fully greenlit all the way up to CEO Satya Nadella. For now, as I understand it, Microsoft's next generation hardware plans include a premium successor to the powerful Xbox Series X alongside its own gaming handheld and several new controller options. Tentatively, these new console devices with an S are slated for 2027. So there it is, folks. There is your confirmation that not only are you getting the next generation of hardware, which again is this Steam box that looks and acts like an Xbox, but ultimately is a PC, you will be getting new controllers as well as the handheld in 2027. Umbra, ultimately, you were right all along, sir.
Well, I'm used to hearing that. I got to say, no, I'm joking. I mean, listen, that sounds good to me. And I think that controllers, well, we've heard about that well back into the court situation when they were talking about, they detailed a lot of that there with the haptics and all that. So that's probably what that will be. However, the mileage may vary for that because I know some people who do not like the haptic feedback. Danny is one of them. He hates it.
I actually like it, dude. Like I like the DualSense. I don't like the position of the sticks, to be honest with you. It's doable. It's fine. But if you can give me what that controller does in the form of an Xbox controller, I'm kind of all in on that, man.
I don't mind them it either, especially if it's used well. Like Astrobot used it well. I'll give it that, right? So if they utilize it well, I'm all for that too. The offset sticks is why I prefer the Xbox as well. So I'm with you there. And I think the Elite controller is just better by far than anything PlayStation offers. But that said, yeah, man. I mean, that all of that sounds promising. I'm just again, I'm excited to see. I wish I had more to go on with this outside of that. I mean, the only thing we can really speculate is or speak on is to their greater plan and of involving third parties to allow for like we talked about a 5090, if you will, Xbox. So we don't know enough, so they have to give us some information on that. I'm actually looking forward to hearing that finally voiced.
Yep.
Sarah Bond is the head of that situation. We haven't heard from Sarah Bond in a long time now. Hell, I haven't seen her anywhere. So she must be
it's been a
hunkered
minute,
down.
dude, for sure. I mean, she is the president of Xbox and still holds that position as far as we know. We just have not heard, anything from her. Now, granted, she's a busy woman. She's the head of the president of Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she also made mention last year that they were reforming the backwards compatible team, but it was also adding the caveat that it was not only going to be backwards compatible development, but forward compatible development. I would imagine that that's what she sunk her teeth into and what she's full steam ahead about. She also made mention about the most powerful hardware that Xbox has ever made, which is where we are today. I don't know why we haven't heard from her, specifically, but I would imagine we should hear something soon.
Yeah, no, I 100%, and I think GDC might be that time when we start hearing some things, right? So yeah, I'm excited. I wish again, I hate to vamp onto things where we don't have enough information and I start making declarative statements. I don't know enough, you know what I mean? So, but I am excited for what they have coming. Me already being on PC as I am largely. I'm not like, man, I sure wish I had me a more powerful Xbox. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, if they're gonna give us that, perfect, because I want the Xbox mainstays, to experience this too. And I love the thought of Microsoft, which Phil was very clearly alluding to, bringing storefronts of Epic and Steam and all that to it. I just want to see how that all
He said it without
out.
actually saying it, though.
Yeah, he does a little coy thing. How he does. Oh yeah, we would love to have the storefronts. Blah blah blah. You know how he talks. But I love the thought of that because I think it's just going to open the door for so many more things. It's going to open, I think, a lot of people's eyes to the wider, depending on how it's implemented. I just want to see how that's all going to work out. I'm intrigued, as they would say, because I want to see how that's going to play out with different storefronts. How can that work out? Because it's like, isn't that them shooting themselves in the foot essentially? I just want to see how that works out, So that's really it for me. I just want answers, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. But if that is the future where they'll allow for these different storefronts, and it's a pretty powerful Xbox, and they'll have third-party developers, if you will, or own platformers, to allow for their PC to be Xboxes in that way. I'm interested in seeing all of that play out. I just wish I knew more, but outside of the release year.
Well, you know what's interesting, and I want to use myself as a test subject here, folks. I'm not a PC guy. I have a Steam account, yes. I have an Epic Store game account, sure, because every time they give away something free, I download it. Now, I add it to the collection, but I don't have unlimited space, so I just delete it because I'm not going to play on PC. Eventually, though, I might. And here is where this answers your question of how it would work. Now, I am not a PC guy. I have never been a PC guy. I'm a console guy. I have been since the Atari 2600. Yes, folks, I know I'm old. But this is where we get to the point. Now, more times than not, when me and, Everborn or Casante are talking on the phone, which we do pretty much every day, they're like, oh man, I'm playing game A. Oh, it's on Steam, right? Steam had 19,000 games released last year. 19,000 of them, right? And a lot of the really amazing gems get lost because there's just too many games. But me being a non-PC guy, if you give me an Xbox, the next generation Xbox, that runs and has the ability to download games from Steam, I now become a Steam customer through the Xbox that looks and runs and plays like a traditional Xbox, but gives people like me the ability to play or buy a game from Steam, download it to my console, play it on this hardware that, again, looks like an Xbox. And the same could be said for the Epic Game Store. Whether I downloaded it for free or I purchased a game from them that maybe isn't exclusive, I will be able to play it, but they would not get this customer because I'm not a PC guy. But because this box allows the door to be kicked open into that world, I have now a new customer. I think that is at the forefront of where they're pushing this thing, Umbra. But
yeah, no, I mean that makes some sense. Boom, it makes a lot of sense. I see them still. I think everything you said was well, and I don't think I have too much more to add to it than that. Yeah,
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of add some context to it. But Jamie Moran, I want to go to you, brother, and I do want to add an additional paragraph of context to what the next generation of Xbox could potentially be. And it says, it seems, according to the article, that the next generation of Xbox consoles will be closer to Windows than ever before, reducing the amount of work developers have to commit to when porting from PC. As I understand it, according to Jez Corden, they will continue to support backwards compatibility with legacy Xbox games as well. However, Xbox President Sarah Bond previously announced a project team specifically designed, I said this before, to promote backwards and forwards compatibility for existing Xbox games. And to that end, Xbox-led Phil Spencer has teased in previous interviews a desire to support third-party storefronts, which is what, of course, Umbra literally just said. Jamie Moran, what are your thoughts on the basic confirmation that the next set of hardware is now coming in 2027 and not next year?
Oh, excuse me. So when the whole 2026 thing came out last year, and we all knew Microsoft wasn't going to do mid-gen upgrades. I thought 2026 was a perfectly fine move because that's how long console generations used to be, 5 to 6 years. Just everyone got really comfortable during the 7th gen. I apologize for the police car going past.
It happens, brother. Listen, they're coming for us. I understand.
Yeah, it's the ponies. They after me. But I think when it comes to like Xbox and like just gaming in general, like this has been a weird generation. People say it's taken way too long. Like, every time people talk about this generation, they say it's a laughing stock, right? We have a lot of great games. Xbox has more games coming than ever before, but people still refer to this generation as kind of bad, right? Because overall it's been weird. The first 2 years of this generation, every game left and right was constantly delayed, right? We all saw these still images on Twitter by these developers saying, hey, here's a bunch of text. Sorry, this game you've been looking forward to, it's delayed a year. We've seen this time and time again for years, and it's expected at this point. So, like, the first 2 years of this generation were kind of just slow. It was like walking in butter, right? And now, big games are coming out all the time. 2025 looks to be possibly one of the best years in gaming ever. And still, people refer to this generation as slow and kind of bad. And looking at it like that, even though I would have been all in on a new Xbox, excuse me, for 2026, I think maybe pushing it a year after is perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine with the hardware I have. I don't think Microsoft needed to do a mid-generation refresh. It was unnecessary this time. And, I think that's going to give developers a lot more leeway to get their games out because, like, I think, in 2026, if they were to put out a new console, developers would basically have to support Xbox One, Xbox One X, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro, Switch, Switch 2, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5 Pro. It's just a mess, right? So I think 2027 it's fine, and at that point they probably still going to be a year ahead of PlayStation, which who knows how that's going to pan out. And at this rate, we could actually see Microsoft launch their next generation hardware with an Elder Scrolls game and maybe a new Halo, right? Crazy stuff. So like I think that's totally fine. When it comes to the whole like storefront thing and like PC storefronts on console, I honestly don't know how that would work. I've said time and time again, I actually think that's a bit of a dangerous move for Microsoft. Because like let's say a lot of people like me on Xbox right now, they are waiting for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and we're waiting for that to come to Xbox. Well, let's say Steam is on Xbox, and let's say you can just load up that store, sign in with your Steam ID, and buy that said game on your console. Well, what would actually give developers more incentive to not just put their game on Steam and let people sign in and download it and play it on whatever hardware they have? So that means you won't have Xbox achievements. You won't have the Xbox integrated ecosystem with that game. And I think like it's a very slippery slope. We don't know because we're not in the business meetings how it's all going to pan out. But like people have been talking about Steam as an app on Xbox for years now. For years. Like I would look back in the day in the early 2000s, I was obsessed with playing RTS games on PC. Those are the only games I played on PC. In fact, I have 2 games on my current PC, one of which is an RTS. And I would love to be able to play some of these games on my Xbox. But I think, like, I saw this last night, and I have to mention it. Some pretty big Twitter accounts were posting about how, Xbox doing this, the PC handheld strategy this year, and the next gen Xboxes, like why are they still doing next gen Xboxes? They must be making a lot of money in Game Pass. I think there's an extremely naive approach when it comes to talking about Xbox for a lot of these people, is that they think Xbox just makes money from Game Pass, which is bizarre because like Game Pass makes a lot of money for Microsoft. However, do you know what makes even more money? Game sales, microtransactions, expansions, DLC. The Xbox storefront generates billions of dollars of revenue. So, like, that's why Xbox wants to continue making consoles. Like, there's tens of millions of players in the Xbox ecosystem. You have, like, 50 million people still playing on Xbox One. You have, we assume, 30 million people on Xbox Series consoles. Like, do you think that Microsoft just wants to just say, okay, goodbye to all these game sales, right? No, it makes billions, right? Xbox generates more money than Windows, right? So Xbox as a brand, like they sell lots of games, they have lots of subscriptions. Like that's why they want to continue making hardware. And there's tens of millions of console players that want to buy a next gen Xbox, be it 2026 or 2027. The whole storefront thing, we really have no idea how that'll work. Maybe it'll be a side loading thing. I just don't know. But like when it comes to console players, they want simplicity. They want the ability to buy a box, plug it in, play a game. That's it. And I 100% Microsoft will do that. But I think the 2027 year is actually more interesting than any other rumor because originally, for the past year and a half, 2 years, we've all talked about, hey, 2026 is going to be amazing. But 2 years ahead of Sony, that would have been a weird move because Sony would have been able to get 2 years ahead, 2 years later with way more powerful hardware. And considering the price of like chip manufacturing and all that stuff being affected by everything going on, like I think a year apart, Microsoft could maybe pull a 360 move and get people excited about Xbox with Elder Scrolls, the Call of Duty marketing because they're going back to Modern Warfare and all that stuff. Like I think the 2027 thing is actually more important than the whole OEM ecosystem thing.
So I have a bit of a caveat to what you're saying. So again, the whole storefront thing, I understand there's a lot of hesitation there because we don't know how it's going to work or look. But the OEM situation, and this is where this conversation kind of goes into a little bit of a hypothetical because we don't know, right? The rumor is that they want other manufacturers, or they're going to allow for other manufacturers to make an Xbox based on a spec that the customer will design. This goes like right to, like, if you go to alienware.com, which is owned by Dell, and you find an Alienware laptop that you like I did for Mrs. Boom. She loves their laptops. I got her one with a 4070. Now, I could have gotten the one with the 4090, but she doesn't need that. And she didn't want we went with a 4070. She got a 4070. She has a terabyte of storage and all the bells and whistles you can want for a laptop. Now, she game on it? Very rarely, but that's what she wanted, and that's what I bought her. The next Xbox is going to come out, and it's going to be made by Microsoft. That's going to launch in 2027, and it's going to be a pair of consoles. One is going to be a handheld. One is going to be the box underneath the TV that we all know and love and understand. I think there's an opportunity here, and here's why. When Phil had that interview, and he was specifically asked, what about the next generation Xbox is going to be different that is going to have consumers want that box? He wanted the next Xbox to be as different as possible from what they've released years before in just a standard console. And this is where they have advantage 101 over PlayStation. This is just my opinion. I really think that the PlayStation 6, which is going to be a super powerful piece of tech, make no mistake, it is going to be a powerful piece of tech, but it's going to be a PlayStation 5 with onboard super powerful tech, meaning that it's going to look and act like a PlayStation 4 and a 5 before it. It's going to play the games. It's going to have PSN, capabilities and all the bells and whistles that you know and love about PlayStation. But it's going to be a standard PlayStation with a different number and more power. That's not going to be the case with the next Xbox. The next Xbox is going to be an open source box, potentially giving you the ability to play Steam games and your Epic Game Store, maybe even other storefronts like Good Old Games. And the console is going to release for $700, give or take. But there's going to be an ability for a third party to make a piece of hardware because it's going to be and mirror what a PC is already, meaning that there's not going to have to be any additional development. It's basically when you're making a game on PC, you're making the game for the Xbox because it's basically a PC. And all they have to do is add achievements. I think that's going to open the door to have more people want to put their games on Xbox because they're not doing additional development that's going to cost them additional monies. Again, this is all speculation, folks. Who knows how this is going to go? But this has been a rock solid 80 plus minutes. Again, 3 big topics. I will be cutting them down this evening, probably in the midnight hour, while I'll be burning that midnight oil to kind of get this out there. If you want to have it in a more smaller, digestible way of checking out the podcast. But let me just make sure that I'm up to date on Super Chats, and I am. I want to thank everybody who did, in fact, drop a Super Chat. Once again, happy birthday to Sith Lord. Happy 40th birthday, brother. Great to have you here. And, of course, thank you for the generosity and your incredible support. Let's get everyone out of here so Umbra can get to sleep. And, of course, we got to have Jamie. He's preparing for his show later on. Infinite Umbra, let's get you on out of here, brother. Please tell everyone about The Fix happening Thursday with you and Daniel McGee. There's a lot of WWE stuff to get into. I mean, the heel turn is legendary. Like I said, we talked about this, I think, last week, where it kind of feels when Hogan went NWO on Macho Man. That was, again, one of my favorite times in wrestling. But there's still a lot of movies. Please, folks, if you missed out on Daredevil Born Again episode 1 and 2, oh my God, so freaking good. A bit of a shock to open up. The episode 3 is tomorrow, again, because they cover pop culture. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the animated joint on Disney Plus, is so freaking good. My God, it's so well written and voice act. Check that out.
Sound like you might want to be a part of the show. Boom, you got all this. Look at all the stuff you naming. You ahead of the game.
You know, I say this all the time. A lot of people don't know about this because I don't put this out on the socials. I am a behind the scenes movie buff, especially with Marvel. I'm an MCU stan. I wish to the gaming gods that I had the time. I would actually have a podcast dedicated to just the MCU and what James Gunn is doing over on the DCEU. I wish I had the time, but now I get to gush a little bit on the outro. But sell the brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to The Fix? And again, that's going to be Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're in Chi-Town, that means 7 p.m. But
indeed,
where can they check that out? But more importantly, follow you on social media.
So you guys can find me on social media, Infinite Umbra, or Umbra Infinite. You'll find me either way. Thursday, as Boom pointed out, 8 o'clock Eastern. And for The Fix, and Friday for the Infinite podcast. But I had such a crazy situation happen the other day with my OBS. It's a long story, but I had ended up deleting my settings and such, which by the way, OBS will delete the files off your computer. So I deleted my files off my computer for the Fix setup, and luckily I had the OneDrive, which was causing me issues because I'm like, how the heck does this thing work? It was just taking stuff off my computer and all that. I had to get my brother K Asante to help me, and he helped me get these things back in order. So I got the settings back and everything is okay. So we'll be all right. Just a crazy week, man. I was so drained.
This is why I don't mess around with that OBS, brother. There you go.
Man, it's tricky. You got to know what you're doing. If you press something by mistake or do something wrong, you cost yourself. But yeah, other than that, I'm happy to be here with you guys. It was a good discussion. Sorry, I'm so tired, man. I wish I had the energy because I know you called on me at one point. I was like, I was in fantasy world already. Shout out to Sith Lord for his birthday. Happy birthday to you, brother. And everybody else on the chat, have a good day.
Well, brother, thanks so much for being here. We're looking forward to what you and Danny have to say on Thursday evenings, The Fix. And Jamie Moran, you have a show happening later this afternoon, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called All Things Xbox, where there are jokes, there is Xbox news, and they try to keep the trolls out of the chat. Brother, sell the brand. Where could people subscribe to the elusive gamer known as AKA Mr. Mass Effect, Jamie Moran? And more importantly, where can they follow you on social media?
Yeah, thanks, Boom. It's always a pleasure talking with you guys. So yeah, my podcast is All Things Xbox Podcast. It's on at 6 p.m. Eastern, and tonight 10 p.m. in the UK because the clocks haven't changed yet here. So everything's confusing to me. So that's on the Elusive Gamer YouTube channel. It's exclusively Xbox. A bunch of Mass Effect stuff coming soon. Getting back to regular videos soon because, as Boom knows, I've been very sick for months. Getting there though. But yeah, that's 6 p.m. tonight. It's going to be fun. We're going to be talking about all the OEM stuff. I'm going to rant about Ubisoft and Splinter Cell again. That seems to be a weekly thing at this point. But it's going to be a fun time over there. No fanboy stuff. Chat is always fun, which is always great. I think gaming needs less fanboy stuff. Like, there's too much out there. And, it's always positive over there. And my Twitter is Jamie Moran UK, where it's exclusively gaming and jokes. And I try to do Blue Sky, which is Jamie Moran, but it's too much.
Not enough time in the day, brother. Not enough time in the day.
But that's me.
Well, appreciate you gentlemen being a part of today's show. A big thank you to nearly 1,100 people watching live. That's bonkers. We actually had over 700 people watching on X or Twitter. We had almost 400 people watching live on YouTube, and one person, probably the same person all the time. Welcome, Twitch viewer. We appreciate you checking out the show on Twitch. And again, we're going to do this every day. We'll be back tomorrow evening. Of course, don't forget Primetime Gaming at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursday at noon, we'll be back. C-Money, and of course, our special guest, Will the Broke Boy Insider Lewis, will be joining us to kind of talk about, well, whatever's happening. And I would imagine that we should be hearing something soon about the Xbox Preview Partner Program event that usually happens in March. We'll see when that's going to get announced. And of course, Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Breakfast with Boom to round off the week. But that's going to do it for us. Once again, thank you to all of the super chats and channel member chats that continue to come in and support the channel. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully, folks, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.